Okay, here we go. All right, the information provided is for educational purposes and is not intended as medical advice or a substitute for medical advice of a physician or other qualified healthcare professional. We do not aim to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any illness or disease. You should always consult with a doctor or other healthcare professional for medical advice or information about diagnosis and treatment. And the information in this presentation has not been evaluated by the FDA or any other medical body. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Dr. Dori Naerbo, and I am your host on today's call. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a clinical researcher and an author of several books. So welcome everyone to our Tuesday call with Clayton Thomas, who is the founder of Root. Clayton has over 25 years of experience in the health and wellness industry. And for the past 16 years, Clayton has focused on detoxification and supplementation formulations. A simple philosophy, cure the cause. Hello, Clayton, and welcome to the call.
Happy Tuesday. It's great to see you all floral. I was floral yesterday. I'm muted today, so happy Tuesday, everyone. Happy birthday, Teresa.
Absolutely. Happy birthday, Teresa.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, happy birthday. Hope you're having a fabulous day.
You could not have a more awkward happy birthday singing than that. I bet in all of your years, you've not had a happy birthday singing that is more awkward than that.
I have not.
Well, let's do the first, because we're all about the first, right?
Absolutely.
So, well, today we're going to talk about weight loss, obesity, and the connections between just a few things and how Trinity works in synergy. But first, we're going to recap last week's open mic call. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, last week we had open mic and, where anything goes. And we had a lot of great content, but we really can't talk about it. Not much to say because, it wasn't recorded. And, so next time.
It's a lot like Guy and Girl Club. What happens at open mic night and Guy and Girl Club stays at open mic night and Girl and Guy Club. We don't record it.
Exactly. I was going to say something like that, but those kinds of analogies, when I say that, I always get them backwards. So I knew that you were going to do that for me. So I would just be quiet. So next time, be sure to mark your Tuesdays because, not all our calls are recorded. So you miss a lot of great content.
We're must-see TV.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about obesity. So during the years between 1976 through 1980, 15% of the US adults were obese. And today about 40% of adults are obese and another 33% are overweight. So the worldwide obesity has nearly tripled since 1975. And in 2016, more than 1.9 billion adults 18 years and older were overweight. And of these, 650 million were obese. So 39% of adults aged 18 and over were overweight in 2016 and 13% were obese. So this was interesting, this diagram here, because this is men and women in the UK. And you can see the dark areas is the obese areas and the overweight is in the light and kind of this powder blue. And then these are the countries in order of the levels of obesity.
I love that the Japanese and the Koreans
they're like in 10%.
Like less than 10%.
Yeah.
And we won't get into the benefits of kimchi and everything, but
I love kimchi.
Oh, it's so good. Fermented foods are amazing for you.
Yes. So
and
there we go. And this is interesting too. This is the world's most obese nation with a BMI of 30 and above.
Which makes sense when you look at the top. We got top 6, top 7, top 8 countries are all of the Polynesian islands. But genetically they're a warrior culture. But I think part of the issue is environmental. That like the Marshall Islands, we'll probably hit on that a little bit.
And this is interesting too, because over 340 million children and adolescents aged 5 to 19 were overweight or obese in 2016. 39 million children under the age of 5 were overweight or obese in 2020. It's
And this is
frightening.
something that's really horrible because of what you hit on, that 3/4 of the population are not lean, right? And parents, because of being unhealthy themselves, and part of the toxicity that's in mom goes into the kid, which creates part of this. The problem being is there's a perception that fat is healthy, right? And parents are like, oh, my kid's too skinny. No, we will develop mass over time. You don't do it early on. And this kind of ties in with the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease issues as well, because of the toxicity issues. And how toxic our younger generations have become because of what's in parents and what's in grandparents.
Hey, we have to revisit this topic because vitamin D plays such a vital role in weight loss. In fact, researchers from 2 university medical centers in the Netherlands examined the effect of body fat had on vitamin D levels with thousands of men and women aged 45 to 65, focusing on their total fat, subcutaneous fat, and visceral fat around the organs and the livers. And what they found was that women, both abdominal and total body fat, were associated with lower vitamin D levels, whereas men had fat in the liver and the abdomen, that was significantly linked to lower vitamin D levels. So this indicates a strong relationship between an increasing waistline of abdominal fat and vitamin D deficiency.
And with let me throw this philosophy at you, because you've traveled a bit. Why is it that people that live close to the beach are leaner?
But there definitely is something to that. Absolutely. Okay, so moving on. So vitamin D deficiency is strongly related to obesity, as well as other components of obese-related dysmetabolic states, such as hypertension, diabetes, insulin resistance, hyperlipidemia. So here, vitamin D also helps regulate belly fat. Another study, a study in Minnesota, found that since the body uses vitamin D as an environmental sensor, it tells the body to store extra energy when there's low levels of vitamin D. So the body primarily stores this excess energy as fat. And for many, this excess fat accumulates around the waistline for easy access to the bloodstream through the digestive system. And another study in the Journal of Women's Health found that older women with higher vitamin D levels experience less weight gain over the course of 5 years. And likewise, a study in a nutrition journal found that overweight and obese women who took 1,000 international units of vitamin D every day for 12 weeks lost a measurable amount of fat mass independent of other bodily changes. So the research found that stored vitamin D tells the hypothalamus to decrease the output of the parathyroid hormone as a hormone substance that, causes the body to hoard belly fat, which is interesting, especially like for older women with the taking the vitamin D. And what product do we have that has vitamin D in it?
Well, there's 2 actually.
That's true. So not only does vitamin D reduce belly fat, it also reduces the growth of cancer cells. It regulates infection and reduces inflammation. And many organs and tissues in the body have receptors for vitamin D, indicating more important roles than bone health. So they've actually identified 2,700 vitamin D receptor sites. And they basically say that this is like one of the most, it's the most important to humans. It's because it plays such a wide variety of biological pathways. The vitamin D, the role that it's playing. And we've actually had more. There's more information on vitamin D on another talk that we did several months ago, specifically about vitamin D. You can find that on the YouTube channel at the Root Brands.
I'm gonna pull it up here and post it in the box while we're doing it.
Yeah, because that talk is really, really good. It goes into more detail about vitamin D and the different pathways and stuff like that. So in the elderly, vitamin D production declines with advancing age due to the decreased dietary intake and, of course, the diminished sunlight exposure, reduced skin thickness, impaired intestinal absorption, and impaired hydroxylation in the liver and the kidneys, making the elderly population more dependent on dietary vitamin D. So aging reduces vitamin D production in the skin. There is a decrease in the concentration of cholesterol in the skin and in the old compared to young individuals, and a reduced response of UV light, resulting in a 50% decrease in the formation of pre-vitamin D3. So, well, this leads us to the development of subclinical inflammation in fat tissue results from an immune reaction due to vitamin D deficiency. So the adipokines are cell signaling molecules such as inflammatory cytokines. They're secreted by the adipose tissue, which leads to the path of obesity. So vitamin D, of course, we know heavy metals has everything to do with vitamin D. This is one thing, and there's other things as well. So so vitamin D increases intestinal calcium and phosphate absorption, but not so well known is is that vitamin D also stimulates co-absorption of other essential minerals like magnesium, iron, zinc, toxic metals, including lead, cadmium, aluminum, cobalt, and radioactive isotopes such as strontium and cesium, which is why we need to, detox, right? The whole point is that in order for vitamin D to work efficiently in your body, you need to detox the heavy metals and the chemicals. Because remember, in that other talk we had, the pathways from the liver to create the vitamin D, it actually gets blocked by the heavy metals. So we need to do the detoxification during that process, especially when you're doing weight loss, and we'll get a little bit more into that. So now we're going to talk about weight loss resistance with excess cortisol, insulin, leptin, estrogen dominance, hypothyroidism, and low testosterone. So your body makes cortisol in response to stress. So high or dysregulated cortisol levels wreak havoc over time, depleting your body of your happy brain chemicals like serotonin, robbing your sleep, and making you store fat, especially in your belly. So high cortisol is also linked to depression, food addiction, and sugar cravings. And insulin, as we know, is the fat storage hormone. So insulin resistant means that your body can't absorb the extra blood glucose that your body generates from the food that you eat. And when that happens, your liver converts the glucose into fat. And insulin resistance causes weight gain and sugar addiction. And high leptin causes weight gain and excessive hunger. And leptin is nature's appetite suppressant. And when you've had enough to eat, leptin signals your brain to stop eating. And when you're overweight, your fat cells produce excess leptin. And when your brain gets bombarded with leptin signals from too many fat cells, it shuts down. And so the leptin levels keep rising, receptors stop functioning, your body doesn't get the leptin signals, and you don't feel full. And you keep eating the wrong foods in an addictive pattern, and you keep gaining more weight. Go forward. Let me see. Okay, here we go. So then we have estrogen dominance for you ladies out there.
And some guys, unfortunately, because
that's true.
This is where the heavy metals come in, being hormone mimetic.
So when you are estrogen dominant and you have too much estrogen compared with your counter hormone progesterone, having too much estrogen in the body causes a number of symptoms, including weight loss resistance, of course, moodiness, PMS, heavy periods, but it's this gap here. It's this when it's high compared to the progesterone here is when you have estrogen dominance. And it's interesting how it happens around 50. I say when the menopause hits and that starts, I mean, boy, everything starts basically like this downhill thing. That's kind of how it works.
That's also where the lead starts to leach out of bone, which
Yeah.
displaces calcium and such in bone. So you have the perception of osteoporosis because of weakening bones. But lead is hormone mimetic. It's actually estrogen mimetic and neurotoxic. So it causes brain fog, but it also, being hormone mimetic, will block the estrogen binding sites, which leads to an increase in estrogen. And that's where you have the gapping difference between the two, because around the age of 50 is when it's actually the golden number, or the magic number, depending upon how you look at it, because you can pretty much do whatever you want to the human body for 50 years. And then you get to pay the piper right around 50. So this is one of those things that you see as an indicator, but also when you look at the majority of heart attacks and other diagnoses of major health issues, it happens in the majority of instances close to or right around the age of 50.
And we have your thyroid. Your thyroid acts as an accelerator of your metabolism, managing how fast or slow you burn calories. And when your thyroid is sluggish, it can also cause weight gain, fluid retention, hair loss and thinning, depression, constipation, and many other issues. And also, here we have thyroid and heavy metals.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's huge, right?
And what's important to understand with thyroid function, as well as the reproductive system, that in women, mercury, and specifically mercury, while in guys it has a predisposition to be more neurotoxic, so brain and central nervous system, which is why you see a higher rate of the spectrum and autism and ADD, ADHD in boys. But in girls or in women, mercury loves the reproductive organs and the thyroid. You don't see many guys with thyroid issues, with hypothyroid or hyperthyroid issues, where you see in women. That's the biggest thing, as you can see with the research.
Well, and a lot of these studies here also cite cadmium. Quite a bit of studies have cadmium in there, here as well. Well, the big three, right? Mercury, lead, and cadmium.
Yep.
So a lack of testosterone makes it difficult for men to build and maintain muscle mass. And the amount of muscle that you have plays a role in regulating your weight. So the more muscle mass you have, the more calories you burn. And when your testosterone levels fall below normal, your muscle mass declines, causing your metabolism to slow down. And this domino effect paves the way for weight gain and stubborn fat, despite your best efforts of eating right and working out. But sleep is your secret weapon, right? So living in the northern climate may be promoting fat storage and contribute to typical weight gain some of us have over the winter. And sleep loss is one of the risk factors of obesity, and it creates hormone imbalance that regulates appetite, that promotes overeating and weight gain. Childhood sleep habits may even have long-term effects on weight well into adulthood. And researchers in New Zealand actually found that they studied 1,037 children from birth until age 32. They collected information from parents on the average number of hours that their children slept from ages 5, 7, 9, and 11. Each 1 hour reduction in sleep during childhood was associated with a 50% higher risk of obesity at age 32.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's really significant.
Because especially in our world now, there's.
Can you imagine 20 years from now what's going to happen? Everybody's going to be obese. I mean, because they got their phones, they got their tablets, they're not sleeping.
Well, and that's just it. It's the lack of sleep. But as Dr. Stefan Rao hit on a couple of weeks ago when we were reviewing his latest HRV analysis, going over the anti-aging aspect, and he talked about the most recent published literature on melatonin having benefits as a silver bullet with COVID, that it pertains to the sleep issue, that it's when your body's going to detoxify, it's when your body recovers, it's when you dream, it's when your metabolic pathways and everything reset. If you're not getting restful sleep or enough sleep, and really when you look at it, a third of your life, should be spent sleeping. And I think in many aspects, people think that sleep is a waste now, and you should be more active and getting more stuff done, where it's actually the inverse. And I was watching very briefly parts of the Olympics, and there was one of I think she was an Australian swimmer or Australian diver, I believe. And she had peaked fairly well, and she hadn't been on clean slate or zero in, which probably would have made her an Olympic champion. But there's one thing that she changed in her training regimen that allowed her to become elite, and it was her sleep patterns. Mm-hmm. She started to make sure she got more sleep, and her training went through the roof. And that's what's really, really, really important, of getting a good night's sleep. And I will.
Okay, so types of fat. We have fluffy fat, soft and jiggly, subcutaneous fat. We have fibrous fat, tough version of subcutaneous fat, and we have cellulite. Everybody, 80-90% of the women have cellulite. And then, of course, we have visceral fat. This is what we call firm fat. It's different from the other types of fat. Visceral fat is a problem that has to be tackled with lifestyle changes alone. There aren't any current tools that a cosmetic surgeon, can help you with this type of fat. Brown fat stores energy in small spaces, smaller spaces than white fat. It's packed with iron-rich mitochondria, which is how it gets its color. So when brown fat burns, it creates heat without shivering. And this process is called thermogenesis. Everybody wants to go into thermogenesis to lose weight. So during this process, the brown fat also burns calories. It's highly regarded as a possible treatment for obesity and some other metabolic syndromes. So, well, this leads us to how polluted is your fat? Well, your white adipose tissue represents a reservoir of environmental pollutants, especially those resistant to biological and chemical degradation, the so-called persistent organic pollutants, your forever chemicals. And, this not only affects the physiological role of your adipose tissue, but also influences the development of obese-associated diseases. And then you have heavy metals entering your bloodstream from the exposure of, the fumes, the air pollution, the food, the contaminants, the cigarettes, from the air, the soil, the food that we're eating, the water that we're drinking, the treatments that we receive, even our cosmetics. So these metals then travel throughout your body and penetrate various tissues and organs, where they remain stored for years, especially hiding out in, guess what? Your adipose tissue, in your fat cells. So this is one reason that weight loss can sometimes result in acute heavy metal poisoning, as fat cells begin to shrink and release the dormant toxins into the bloodstream, and of course other organs. And that's why during any type of weight loss program, really need to be doing a detoxification program, or obviously the clean slate. Okay.
And restore.
Yes. And we're going to get more to that. So, of course, these are endocrine disruptors.
Which there are many.
Yes, absolutely. And in addition, these chemical exposures have been linked to also low levels of vitamin D. You got your BPAs, the things found in water bottles, your phthalates, your fire retardants, your lubricants, your PCBs, your BBs, and your PBDEs, and your pesticides and things like that. And let's not forget about glyphosate and all that good stuff. So we've seen this before. We've also talked about how do sumo wrestlers gain weight. Well, when they take a nap, they are purposely awakened to eat, and then they go back to sleep multiple times during the day. In other words, if you want to gain weight, eat before you go to bed. You are guaranteed to gain weight. This is what we call the Sumu diet. So in the Journal of Current Biology, researchers demonstrate that the pleasure center of the brain that produces a chemical dopamine and the brain's separate biological clock that regulates daily physiological rhythms are linked, and that high calorie foods which bring pleasure actually disrupt the normal feeding schedules, resulting in overconsumption. So this affects our body clock, our sleep-wake cycle timed to the daytime activity, moderate eating, and nighttime rest. So basically, the lights on all the time. Eat at any time lifestyle recasts the eating pattern and affects how the body utilizes energy. So it's actually altering your metabolism, which leads to obesity, which causes disease. And so we're learning that when we eat, when we eat is just as important as how much we eat. So a calorie is not just a calorie. Calories consumed between meals or at odd hours become stored fat. And that is the recipe for poor health and obesity, as shown in our sumo wrestler. So that all ties in with the sleep-wake cycle. You wanted to hit on the circadian rhythm.
Yep.
And then again.
And here's what's important when you look at the dopamine pathways, but also the circadian rhythm. And we actually haven't released the information on this, which we probably should. But Zero In is actually designed to, and not only designed, but it does reset your circadian rhythm by taking a capsule in the morning, usually around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. When you take a Zero In, it'll reset your circadian rhythm, so everything gets back in line. Then you have the dopamine, the serotonin, and it's an interesting conversation, as far as the timing, because there's so many people that are focused on intermittent fasting.
And then, of course, we know these are the 4 biggies of heavy metals and adipose tissue. There's all kinds of studies on this. Obesity and heavy metals, they go hand in hand. Now we're going to talk about, well, toxic metals, downregulates essential neurotransmitters. And as we know, dopamine and serotonin is the key. And, obesity actually interferes with the balance between serotonin and dopamine, which leads to food addiction and several adverse health effects, as we've mentioned already. And we've seen this before. We had this on our addiction slide. And here we can see what dopamine does in obesity. So, serotonin and dopamine also plays a role in diseases that aren't related to mental health. The other one, of course, is obesity. And briefly, obesity affects the natural reward system and the amount of food eaten to feel satisfied. So imaging studies suggest that people with this condition, the body may not release enough dopamine and serotonin.
Well, how about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, and as we know, dopamine modulates motivation in the reward circuits, and hence, the dopamine deficiency in obese individuals may perpetuate this pathological eating as a means to compensate for decreased activation of these circuits. And then we have serotonin. Well, serotonin, keeps thoughts orderly. It prevents excitability, rapid firing of nerve cells that lead to anxious feelings. It also manages behavior and perception, controlling appetite, body temperature, sleep, and smooth muscle. And serotonin even influences, to some degrees, cognitive functioning, affecting learning and memory retention. It's really hard to find a function that really is not that is not regulated by serotonin. But according to a study published in Nature Medicine, there are 2 types of serotonin. The type that is known for its effect on mood and appetite only accounts for 5% of serotonin in the body, while the other 95%, called the peripheral serotonin, plays the role in obesity. So apparently, too much peripheral serotonin in the blood inhibits the brown fat that basically burns energy and glucose to make heat, which leads to obesity and the development of diabetes. It's evident that there is a relationship between the brain's serotonin system and obesity. And for the first time in humans, that snacking increases the risk of developing obesity. So that thing about eating in between meals, that's what you should not do. Eat between meals, as snacking is really bad. Okay, well, here, a clean slate. Why is it important? The uniqueness, the patented proprietary process, the bioscience, engineering, nanotechnology, manufacturing process, the cellular communication, the heavy metals, the viruses, the bacteria, the fungus, and the parasites. I mean, all of this. Right? You've got to get the bad stuff out before adding the good stuff. And as Clayton likes to say, we've been taught over the past years that we need to supplement in order to maintain health. We have to unlearn this process because the key to wellness in our world today is actually addition by subtraction. As Clayton likes to say, we've been taught over the past years that we need to supplement in order to maintain health, right?
Yep.
We have to unlearn the process. And the key is actually addition by subtraction, not the other way around. So what that means again is that you have to get the bad stuff out before you can add the good stuff in. So we already know the Band-Aid approach is a temporary fix. You cannot keep putting supplements into an unhealthy environment and expect a great outcome. That's guaranteed to fail. So you need to get to the root cause of the issue, and that means you need to reset your environment. Uniqueness of our products. It's one of a kind, first of its kind, has never been done before. It's basically in its own class, cannot be compared with any, I even hate to say the word, zeolite product, because there is no comparison.
You can because but it's important to understand the derivative and the process, right?
Oh, I'm getting there.
And quality.
Yes.
And quality is everything.
Mm-hmm. So Clean Slate is a fantastic product that no one else has ever produced. It's truly unique. It detoxifies, rejuvenates, and replenishes your minerals. And then, of course, there's many patents in the pipeline. Clean Slate has unique proprietary patents that utilizes 2 to 3 step fractionation process. And then, of course, the bioscience engineering, nanotechnology, manufacturing process using nanoencapsulation. So the manufacturing process that you want to hit on starts with the selection of clinoptilolite, right? The raw ingredient that we start with is sourced from like a single mine, pristine, in the US. It has 97% pure clinoptilolite and 3% bentonite. So it's very, very rare to find something that pure, right? So the next step of the process includes fractionation.
Fracking.
No, yes, you do cryofracking.
Yep.
But you have another step before that, as well as the polarization, the magnets to create this incredible product that no one else has ever produced. Not to mention, like I said before, this nano encapsulation, which we never have talked about before, but we'll just leave it at that right now, because we'll do a whole talk on that later. So Clean Slate supports and communicates with your body. It helps to get to the cellular level to assist the body to help other cells be stronger. It communicates, it recognizes, and it naturally disassembles and destructive elements that get rooted in the body. Not only does Clean Slate detoxify heavy metals, but it also can get rid of and dismember viruses, parasites, fungus, and bacteria as well. Right?
And the other PBEs, PBDEs, PCBs, all the other environmental, well, not all of, but many of the other environmental chemicals that we were mentioning before that lead to obesity because of thyroid and endocrine dysfunction, that you have what nature's created as the solution to many of the problems throughout history. But as we know, everything we've ever needed has been put here for us. We just have to figure out how to work with it, when, and this is, I think, the most important part, and this goes to what Christina's really done, is everything has its time. The introduction of something into the world or into the universe usually happens at the point where it is at its greatest need.
Oh, it's so interesting that it started when everything else was happening.
Almost like she knew.
Exactly. And one thing I did forget was that, and I don't know why it's not on the slides, but there was a study I read about when we go back to obesity for a minute, because I'm thinking about that again. But when the sun hits your fat cells, the blue light, the light that we can't see, actually helps the fat cells to shrink. That's why I wanted to get in the sun today. When I found out about that, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I got to start sunning myself more.
The more sun exposure you get, the leaner you typically look. And the vitamin D production is there, and if you feel good and you're warm, you're typically going to be more active.
I'm going to start tomorrow, but I just have to check the weather. Oh, it's going to be cloudy, but I still think I can. There's no rain, so that's good. Okay, anyways, moving on. Of course, we already know about this. These heavy metals, I mean, we don't need to go into this again, but this is, what clean slate can do.
More importantly, what's been in you since you were conceived? The metals, the viral fragments, whether you look at something like graphene or benzene or other toxic substances, this little crystal, and especially with how Christina's created a completely new superstructure with it, has the ability to rip apart and bind and grab onto the components that are used to deliver these things, like aluminum and as I mentioned, the graphene and such. You want to do everything you can to protect your body. And more importantly than the ability to remove is what was on the slide initially for clean slate, and that's the orthosilicic acid, because the primary building block for tissue, all connective tissue, whether it's hair, nails, skin, organs, joints, is bioavailable silica, which is orthosilicic acid, which is why silicon dioxide, which orthosilicic acid is bioavailable silicon dioxide. Oh, and it's our little friend. I love these slides, though. You guys absolutely crushed it.
Oh, thank you. So energy and focus, zero in, takes you to your happy place. And in there, they have turmeric, pine bark, velvet bean seed, and vitamin D. So here we have turmeric. So researchers have found that the compound of turmeric, the spice that gives the curry its golden color, could also help improve your memory, mood and memory. It also has certain anti-inflammatory properties that reduce inflammation. It has, also one of the factors that it can help with the inflammation in your body, which is, one of the factors causing obesity. It's an antioxidant, suppresses inflammatory conditions in fat and then pancreas and muscle cells. And according to a study published in the European Journal of Nutrition, this can also help with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood sugar, and also metabolic conditions.
And turmeric's also a good source of vitamin K, which is needed if you're using vitamin D, because it's crucial in the metabolism of vitamin D.
And did you also know that Tufts University conducted a study and showed that it can actually suppress fat tissue growth?
I have not seen that one, but I see your fat growth, and I will raise you the fact that turmeric and a couple of these other ingredients that we'll probably touch on and restore are so powerful that Ayurvedic medicine has used them for thousands of years, but the Western society is only beginning to touch the true understanding of what some of these natural ingredients are really, really capable of, which is why we're coming into you can call it the golden era of our being and our existence. And it's funny that when we talk about the golden era, that both well, all three actually, Zero In and Restore, are golden in color, but Clean Slate also takes on that color after a little time.
Mhm. So pine bark is known to help with alertness, memory, mood, also the reduction of anxiety, and a lot of different things. It demonstrates, like for example, kidney health benefits in the metabolic syndrome patients with effective blood pressure control, reduced blood sugar, and further lowered BMI due to weight loss. I love pine bark. It's an amazing product. Just that alone is pretty incredible. There's a lot of benefits with that. And then of
Well,
course, what?
oh, well, just as Dr. Rao has hit on before in the conversation about those, that the proanthocyanidins in the pine bark extract are also phenomenal for your gut.
Yeah.
And the regeneration of the microbiome, while at the same time boosting dopamine and serotonin.
Mm-hmm. So here is our friend, Mucuna pruriens. The velvet bean seed has been shown to have an anti-diabetic, exhibits antidepressive effects, stress reducer, anti-Parkinson's, and neuroprotective. It also helps, is also related to and has antioxidant activity, and also been used to demonstrate in vitro by the ability to scavenge radicals and reactive oxygen species. Then there was a study done in 2013 from the Oriental Pharmacy and Experimental Medicine, which evaluated the antidepressant action of Mucuna pruriens seeds and found that Mucuna pruriens doesn't only affect dopamine. The animals subjected to the study over a 2-week period showed that it also increased key neurotransmitters that affected serotonin and norepinephrine.
This little guy is so powerful, just from the velvet bean standpoint, that as a natural substance, it's known to be a treatment for Parkinson's because it produces so much L-DOPA. But it's interesting in the purity that we use for our Mucuna pruriens, and this is what gets into quality, because we are getting the certification in Canada with Health Canada for, well, we've already got Clean Slate and Restore, but Zero In has actually taken an extra 3 months of time to finish certification, not because of having any of the ingredients be problematic, but due to the quality of the ingredients we're using and actually the high concentration and high quality. The regulatory commission with the Health Canada has actually never seen a nutritional supplement use the type of quality ingredients ever in a nutraceutical before. So we actually had to explain why we're using such pure sources of Mucuna pruriens and pine bark and curcuminoids in a nutritional supplement. And the answer was because it works.
And of course, vitamin D. It is a neuroprotective, regulates immune system, helps with calcium balance, also involved with regulating many genes, important to brain function. So, vitamin D is thought as a vitamin, but acts as a neurosteroid and helps in, important roles in the brain. We've done a lot on vitamin D, and now we come to Restore.
And the fun one of the group.
Well, Dr. Ram, Christina, created Restore to support the immune system and support the organs in the body to help fight off viruses, bacteria, parasites, and fungus. Restore is designed to be bioavailable to support your body to function at its optimum level. And at the same time, Restore activates the body's metabolism while protecting and helping the immune system. Restore is a natural anti-aging product that, well, every woman and man that are beginning to discover that the orange face challenge that we've had some time ago is equivalent to, some say, even a 4-hour facial. So
and to hit on one thing that is probably the most important right now in where we sit. And we can talk about gut health and how amazing this is, but this product's ability to be antifungal is, I can't express this enough, is of the utmost importance in our current environment, because what we're facing is a mold and fungal issue, not viral, mold and fungus, and the ability to kill that stuff off systemically, which is where actually all three products are very, very supportive in that process. But being able to do that is the one thing that is going to create longevity for people in this current environment. And I can't express that enough. And it's the reason for Christina and I that we take, usually 2 to 3 sachets of Restore every day, 1 in the morning, sometimes 1 in the afternoon, and 1 at night. And some people will look at it as expensive, but if you really understood what the production cost of this is, and when Christina created this formula and we were working with the manufacturer and production, the recommended retail price of what 15 sachets should have sold for in the retail market was twice what we have it priced at. But we knew that there was no way that we could feel comfortable in putting a price that high on it, because a lot of our intended customers probably couldn't afford it. But also she knew what was coming, and this is the most important, the most important of the three, as she stated, which I argued with initially because of what Clean Slate and Zero In do. But upon really seeing performance in the market and what's going on and what's going to be around us and what's been released, there are 3 forms of mold and fungus that are in us and in our environment right now that have never been seen before. And it's crucial to be able to kill that stuff off. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay. So I'm sure you're going to want to hit on this. This is what's very special about Restore. It's the nano emulsion, the QNet, the quantum nano emulsion technology. It is used primarily in the pharmaceutical industry, and of course, now thanks to Dr. Christina Rahm, in the nutraceutical industry as well. And you're probably wondering why this technology hasn't been used before in nutraceutical. Well, quite frankly, it's because most of the biotechnologists are in the pharma, biotech, and environmental industries and do not transition into the nutraceutical space. So lucky for us that we have transitioned to that space. And that's what makes this product really special, this special emulsion technology. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. And it's really, I was spending some time with Jill and Shanna earlier on their YouTube group or their Facebook group. And we were talking about this a little bit as well, that like Dori, you hit on, in biotech and pharma, they've used mechanisms like this to create products, whether it's human monoclonal antibodies or different structures. And what Christina was learning at Harvard in nanotechnology and bioscience engineering, they were showing them how to create different nanoemulsions. And the reason she went, like you, Dori, you guys go back to school just for fun and just to go get more certifications, but she wanted to go understand the nanotechnology and bioscience engineering space, to understand what pharma and biotech had been doing and how she could apply it into the nutraceutical world. And what Dori mentioned is 2 factors. 1, the people that know how to do this never leave biotech. 2, they're not allowed to take these types of mechanisms outside of biotech because of what they can do for delivery. And I mean, you can take nature and amplify what nature's done. And that's honestly with this quantum nano emulsion, process that she's created. That's what it's doing, is she's taken what nature provides, some of nature's most powerful compounds and ingredients, and amplified them by an order of magnitude, but the combination of them is doing something that we've never seen before, that are producing outcomes that we've never imagined. But like we've seen, like Dori was mentioning with the orange face challenge, and what some people are mentioning on the chat about using this topically, when you research some of these ingredients independently, you go, holy cow, these are amazing. But when you combine them and you make them even more bioavailable, whether it's topical or oral, it's a completely different experience. I absolutely love it. And we haven't had anybody that's had anything less than a whoa experience at some point.
Well, the other thing too is that if you want to hear the full discussion on Restore, again, you can go to the YouTube, the Root Brands channel. There's a whole section. There's a whole talk just about Restore and the ingredients, and we go into the studies and as well. And then we have this slide to wrap it up with, and the synergy of Restore. And we've made these little red dots here to show you, because we're talking about obesity, right? So this is metabolic and weight system. And you see here, every one of these ingredients here. I mean, this is why, people are really having such an effect with this product. And of course, with all three of them, it just works. The Trinity works in synergy to help you.
And there's one that's missed there, because one of the sugar component is added, and some people are anti-sugar. So they think, oh, well, I don't eat sugar. I was like, well, if you eat fruits and vegetables, you're actually getting sugar. But you need a good quality source of sugar to actually create some of the chemical reactions with some of these ingredients that make them more beneficial. And the raw cane juice that Christina uses, it's funny that just that on its own actually has some amazing properties in addition to the other ingredients. So you think, oh, well, it's just a sweetener. But that too is actually incorrect. And it's funny because there's a product that has been selling a lot on the retail market right now, and it is an extract of raw cane sugar called polycosanol, which there's polycosanol is found in different sources, many of which are actually in Restore. But they're selling a product that is just a polycosanol extract and selling a lot of it because they're hyping it and actually kind of falsely promoting its capabilities. So if you were really to dive into each of these ingredients individually, you're going to see that this thing is a beast when it comes to overall health and wellness. But when you put those in combination, you won't find something more valuable from a price standpoint in its category. The only things that I would say are comparable from a value standpoint are its siblings, with Restore, Clean Slate, and Zero In, all having infinitely more value than their price. The one part that we didn't hit on is stress, right? And cortisol, and how stress actually affects the storage of fat as well, and how you override stress. Well, one, activity. So you have to have your metabolism working better so you feel good and you can go be active. And that's the hard part, right? Whereas if you're able to take a little golden pill of happiness to improve dopamine and serotonin, which overrides the stress response. Dopamine and serotonin actually can offset cortisol. And you can see this in sports performance, but you also see it in just in regular day-to-day function. If you feel good, it is in our nature to be active, right? We're not made to be lethargic. We're not made to be sedentary. We're made to move. But if you don't feel good, you don't want to. And the combination of the Trinity, creates that feel good, feeling. And like Teresa, it's her birthday, so she could probably touch on this. So here's your birthday question. 18 months ago, because it's been, well, let me see, 12, 6, about 18 months. It's been a little less than that for you, right? But we'll say from the time we launched, time that you were introduced to this, which is a little over a year. Did you think you would see 59?
And to have the quality that I have at 59 is amazing.
Okay, well, I think we can wrap it up. We've gone over the hour like usual, nothing new. And for those that are new on the call, I mean, we did talk about heavy metals, we talked about a lot of different things, heavy metals, the pops, the POPs, the different things that Clean Slate can help with detoxification. But a lot of this information is really in depth. And go to the Root Brand channel, and there you will find detailed talks about heavy metals, like heavy metals, like for example, mercury, lead, cadmium. We've done like separate talks on specific metals, and there's so much information there. I mean, that we've done. How many of these calls have we done, Clayton? Claire, 70 maybe?
I'm gonna say about 70. You guys have done an astronomical amount of work to put all of these together, but I mean, you have your PhD and then additional postdoctoral work with what you've put together with Claire. What content is available on the YouTube channel is probably greater than what one needs to earn a PhD in environmental toxicology. And, to have that as a resource, especially for everybody in the community, where you don't need to know everything, but you really have almost everything at your fingertips. If you want to geek out, you got more scientific information about why we're doing the things that we're doing and how we're doing the things that we're doing. But even more importantly, there's amazing outcomes, that are shared. And I put a challenge out for people yesterday, which I have to post some, of sharing your experiences. There's so many life-changing outcomes that we've already had, because while yes, this is extremely complex, but it's also very, very simple. Take a few drops, take a sachet or two a day, or half a sachet, depending on what works for you, and a couple pills, and you're good to go. It'll change your life. That's what's cool.
And but anyways, I want Stefan to talk about the vitamin D, because he's the expert. He's a virologist, so
please
take it away.
What can I say about vitamin D? The first you have to remember is you have to mention which animals are producing vitamin D or not producing vitamin D. Humans can't produce vitamin D because they're failure in one enzyme. And when you are looking at the cows or pigs or other animals, and you see how much vitamin D they are producing, it's incredible. It's so much. This is the first thing you have to know. The second thing you have to know, there are some recommendations I gave here. And we know that there's a failure in science because the recommendation is about 1,000 units a day. And normally, doesn't matter, you can take 5,000 to 10,000 units per day. Yes, this is the second. And third is, this is the king of vitamins in your immune system. And we saw today that this also has very different rules in your body, for example, for obesity too. Yeah. What can we say to vitamin D more? I don't know. It's so important. You have to take it every day. And you, Dori, you have a problem because you're living in Norway. When it gets darker, the older you are, less vitamin D you can get in your body, and the darker it is in Norway in the next months, you need vitamin D. And you know this is decreasing every winter time, and also 95% of all humans in winter time are suffering from vitamin D. This is important to know. And the older you get, you can incorporate vitamin D by your skin. Your skin is changing when you get older. And therefore, this is also a reason you can't get vitamin D by your skin when you get older.
What age do you think that actually happens?
It's a process. It's a progressive process you had when you get older. It depends on your skin. My skin is another skin like young people or like older people, and depends how much UVB is the important part, not the UVA. Don't use any protections of skin in summer.
Yeah, no.
You only need 1 hour in the sun without clothes. Okay, a little bit. Yeah, 1 hour. But people in Norway, I think, have still a problem with the vitamin D in winter times, and we in Germany too. Yeah. One more. It's the king of the vitamins in your body.
Absolutely.
It regulates a lot of pathways in your metabolism. This is important.
So hitting on the point that I was kind of alluding to based on your research, looking at the HRV results, that using the Trinity or Restore alone, or as we have data on Clean Slate and 0N, with the reduction in biological age, do you think, because this is completely theoretical right now, with the reduction in biological age that we're seeing over a short term, the consistent use of the Trinity, and what we're seeing with skin, right, is your skin gets softer, more supple, becomes more resilient, it gets younger as well as the rest of your body.
Yeah.
Do you think that we could also see better vitamin D metabolism at older ages because of better biological function?
We know a lot about the influence of vitamin D on the biological age too. And you have to remember that the vitamin D is the precursor of the vitamin D is the cortisol in your body. Yeah. And therefore there's also an relationship to stress also too. And stress and oxidative stress too is one of the most important things. How I show you last time in the call, we have to delete the oxidative stress. This is the most important thing. Yeah, and there is the vitamin D, the major vitamin we have to use in the oxidative stress and in the inflammation too.
Love it.
Absolutely. Okay, then. I guess we will end our call for today, and we will see you next week.
We just want to say hi. We're going to drink a nice sparkling now on Teresa's birthday. Martina is my neighbor, as you know, and we have the same birthday, as you know. So we're gonna toast it, and we toast to Dr. Stefan Rao and his good findings. We're very, very happy. We're slimming down now.
Thank you.
I
You,
know.
Dr. Dori, you look especially attractive today, and
Yes.
I told you that you have slimmed down in the face. You look younger than ever and sexy and attractive. Let me tell you.
Thank
that
you,
from
guys.
a woman's
That's so
point of view.
sweet. Well, I am taking, I hate to tell you guys, but I am taking like probably at least 4 Restore a day. I can't help it. I just love it. It's so good. Anyways, okay, thank you. And then we will see you all next week. Same time, same place. New subject.
Bye, y'all.
Let's
And
take
thank you,
care.
Stefan, for
Thank
getting on
you.
the call.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.
Take care. All the best.
Bye-bye. Bye, Alfred.
Bye.